Stop. Watch this before you scroll.
So Donald Trump was inaugurated yesterday, and while it may not be the end of the world, it might be the beginning of the phase for Trinidad and Tobago where we start paying for the mistakes of our past. And I want to explain a little bit about the mistakes of the past and then get into how Donald Trump is affecting the situation now. So with any Western style economy, the government makes money by taxing the economic activity that happens in the country. So people buying and selling stuff, people running businesses, people paying employees, etc. These are the things that a government taxes in order to make a revenue. Now, what happens when you have a natural resource like oil is that the government gets an alternative source of revenue. That sounds like a good thing. The government has money to spend, but it has a side effect called, referred to as the resource curse or the Dutch disease, where because the government is collecting their revenue from this stuff that they're digging out of the ground, it means that you don't need to focus so much on the other things. We don't need to get all the bureaucracy sorted out, all the regulations sorted out. We don't need to get the things to have the regular economic activity going, because the government doesn't depend on that stuff as much anymore as it's depending on the oil coming out of the ground. So you inevitably have a situation where all the other economic activity in the country suffers for various reasons. All the other economic activity suffers, right? This is typically what happened in Trinidad. Now, instead of our leaders recognizing this, because it's a well understood phenomenon, right? Instead of recognizing this and taking that oil revenue and saving it or investing it or doing something different and running the regular expenses of the country through the regular economy, and therefore forcing all the ministries, etc., to operate at a high level and removing all the barriers to business and also, they did not do any of those things, right? So the agricultural sector suffered, the tourism sector suffered, manufacturing is holding on, but just barely holding on. So the Patrick Manning administration doubled down on the gas into Point Lisas, and so his plan for developing diversification was using this gas and making downstream products and melanin, aluminium, and all these things. But at the end of the day, all that is still dependent on the gas. Right? And then the Kamala Persad administration came in, and what they found, they weren't able to get the other industries running. I think they tried, but when that is when we started really facing the facts that we were running out of gas in our basin, right? Production was coming down, and there was this assumption that we would just keep finding more gas, and that gas would drive the economy, and that hasn't been the case. Right? We have not been able to find that extra set of gas. And now coming into this administration, well, because the last two administrations put our gas money into our recurrent expenditure, now without that gas money, we have a problem, because the other sectors of the economy were neglected. And now we have to have this gas. And so this last 10 years was just spent, again, just desperately looking for gas, instead of building out the other sectors, the tourism, the manufacturing, the agriculture. And so now we are in a position where without Venezuela, because Trinidad our basin is basically out of gas, without Venezuelan gas, our economy is going to crash. And that's the situation we are in now because of the neglect of the other industries in the country. This is where we are. What does this have to do with Donald Trump? So Donald Trump enters the equation, and he immediately starts sending a signal that, to start with, the US is going to increase their energy output and drop energy prices, which is going to be bad for our economy. But on top of that, he has a particular problem in Venezuela, and he has signaled his intention to support a regime change in Venezuela, and he has not ruled out using military force. And what does this have to do with Trinidad? Because because of the actions of our leaders, put us in a position where we have no choice but to do cross-border gas with Venezuela. We are now beholden to two masters. We have to do what Venezuela wants because it's their gas, and we have to do what America wants because they have Venezuela under sanctions. And this new American president, Donald Trump, he intends to use whatever leverage America has to enact whatever policy he wants to put. So because Trinidad has no choice but to toe the American line, we saw it with the SOFA agreement, and Donald Trump basically has the ability to put pressure on us to support whatever plans he wants to have. So my concern with Trinidad and Tobago paying the price for the mistakes of the past, is not that the economy is going to crash. It's the loss of our sovereignty because we are now beholden to two foreign countries. And we are now in position to be dragged into some sort of conflict, whether physical or economic, political. We are vulnerable to being dragged into some sort of conflict. And we cannot assert our own authority on the situation because our entire economic future, because of the ineptitude of our leaders over the last 20 years, our entire economic future rests on these foreign countries. So, what I would have to say for us, regardless of what happens, the next 5 years are not going to be boring. You all have a good day.
My name is Venison Jeffrey. This is the Workers' Rights Platform, and we are broadcasting live from the Workers' Rights Network. Now, Trinidad politics, while it have relevance in Trinidad alone, it is also affected by regional and international politics. All of this affect our politics in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, why it is important to look outside and see what is taking place outside? It is just as important as to see what is taking place within the region and what is taking place here. Another word for local politics is called it geopolitics. You know, it are geopolitics in a organization. But the thing about it is this. Now, we have been watching this guy for quite some time. And, you know, what he would have been saying here made a lot of sense. There are a lot of things that is existing. You need to pay attention to what is taking place outside. Donald Trump have been inaugurated. And what going on here? We was an economy that, you know, still a matter of fact, that is heavily dependent on oil and gas. And seeing that oil is not a renewable resource, meaning that it cannot be renewed. Anytime you take by the end of the night. There are things that is renewable and there are things that is non-renewable. That is something that, I mean, the non-renewable is like oil and them kind of thing that cannot be replaced. Once you use it, you use it. Water is a renewable resource. Humans is a renewable resource. But there is a with plants and animals, they are things that could be extinct, although they are renewable. You understand? It could be extinct. So there are factors that affects renewable resource. So in terms of the oil, what the guy have been talking about there is that all the rest of our sectors in Trinidad and Tobago is failed. We have the famine, we have tourism, we have all these factors that we could be able to make money from. And the mere factor that they have not paid attention to these money earners is that you are so focused on oil and gas, the oil and money there, we hook it like cocaine. But there are other parts of our economy that could be developed. Now, I was listening to a discourse concerning Carnival. We're talking about Pandia, all these islands out there. Why not turn one of these islands and them into a Carnival island in which, you know, you could enjoy the culture or partake of the culture every year, just like Disneyland. There's just a small editorial, so I ain't going in, just touching on this subject, you know, individually. It is something that could be looked into, and, you know, we could attract tourists right around the year. How we market our soca? Is it just competition? I hear a man say, if it do not competition, it would not have no millionaires. That is true. That is true. But it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. Jamaica would have done something that their music are all across the world. Artists collect royalties, their families continue to collect royalties. But a competition, it starts and ends within the same day or a series of days or a time period. It have a time period for competition. How are we thinking further and far within the future that we could bring value to our culture that we already have here in Trinidad and Tobago? The thing is about moving forward. The tourism industry, we have the Pitch Lake. We have this natural deep water harbor. We have the mud volcano down on the side. We have waterfalls all through Trinidad, and these things have been sidelined. These are all industries that could be developed and could be advertised on an international level. It don't have to be just here. We advertise in different airports all around the world and encourage people all around the world to come to Trinidad. But the geopolitics that is taking place within this country, believe that some of the elites on top believe that this is a zero-sum game, that some people within our country have to remain poor for them to remain rich. And David Mohammed would have break down that in it. So let me just deviate a little bit. He would have said that the Indians and the Syrians could be rich at the same time and not affect one another. But the Africans and the Syrians and them cannot be rich because we are consumers. If the Africans and the Indians are rich, who is the consumer? Who will be the consumer? You see, the thing about it is this. When you hear that, you start to become frightened. But if everybody is competing at that optimum level, the value of Trinidad and Tobago could rise because you raise the standard. We could start to compete internationally. And trust what I tell you, we will always have a certain level of people around us. The poor will always be with us. The sick will always be with us. The aged will always be with us. The children will always be with us. So I know I deviate a little bit, but the geopolitics that was described in this take here is something to look in. Again, my name is Renison Jeffrey. This is the Workers' Rights Platform. Like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to this platform and be a part of this fastest growing network. Trust what I say. Stay tuned. Click that bell notification so when we go live, we just go live anytime. And we want you to be a part of this live so you could comment and you could call in. That times we open the phone lines. And we facilitate some calls. So thanks for watching, and staying on so long with us. Thank you.